Donald Trump is suffering daily losses in court as his presidency only grows more and more unpopular. It is the reason that Donald Trump is turning to intimidation, not just of judges, not just of protesters, but of anyone who is willing to oppose him, including the entirety of the Democratic Party that Donald Trump is now trying to go after in his latest move, which just backfired in the worst way, leading Donald Trump to melt down an insane post as he usually does. We're going to cover it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, there is a lot to get into with this story, a lot of legal implications for Donald Trump, but the best place to start is with Chris Hayes breaking down Donald Trump's intimidation right here.
Dugan's legal team put out a statement saying Judge Hannessy Dugan has committed herself to the rule of law and principles of due process for her entire career as a lawyer and judge. The judge will defend herself vigorously and looks forward to being exonerated. Now, the real way you know that her arrest was part of a propaganda move is from the administration's propaganda. As Dugan was being arrested by the FBI, Trump's FBI director, Kash Patel, was tweeting about her case. We believe Judge Dugan intentionally led federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest. Patel called the man a legal alien before he's had his due process. The judge was running a pretrial conference for this man on criminal charges in her court when ICE agents came in without a court warrant issued by a judge. That's a tactic that ICE agents use all the time, but are now using in courthouses across the country, which is new. Basically, daring judges who are used to controlling their courtroom, who's in and who's out, right, to stop them. But there's no question what message they and their partners on Trump TV are trying to convey here.
So when you see these judges trying to obstruct your efforts to make this country safer, what is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great depth. That's her picture up on the screen, Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her. They're deranged is all I can think of. I cannot believe. I think some of these judges think they are beyond and above the law, and they are not. And we're sending a very strong message today. If you are harboring a fugitive, we don't care who you are.
Again, even under the facts as alleged in the criminal complaint, I'm not sure harboring a fugitive is true about this judge in question. Pam Bondi putting independent judges on notice. And if the message is still too subtle for you, the flurry of posts from Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, and his Homeland Security advisor, Stephen Miller, should make it clear. No one's above the law. Don't cross that line. Again, the context here is they see the judiciary and due process and legal protections as competition.
Donald Trump knows he is getting weaker and weaker by the day, whether it be because of the court orders being handed down against the illegal immigration plan he is carrying out, against the illegal actions that his administration is taking at large, not just on immigration, but DOJ as well, or whether it's the fact that Donald Trump just continues to become more and more unpopular, and he's looking ahead to the midterms, which look scarier than they even did in 2018 for Donald Trump. And it's the reason we saw him make one of the just most politically motivated attacks we have ever seen, something Donald Trump talked a lot about on the campaign trail, but is now carrying out himself, and it's backfiring. As you'd expect with most of Donald Trump's decisions, we're going to read all about how and then get into the post he made, very upset with all the backfiring that's happening. Donald Trump's attack on Act Blue, the Democratic fundraising platform, just blew up in his face. Donald Trump's attempt to target the major Democratic fundraising platform has instead galvanized donors. The Trump administration's decision to target Act Blue has instead resulted in the left-leaning platform's biggest fundraising day of the year. On Thursday, Donald Trump ordered the Justice Department to investigate the online donations platform, directing Attorney General Pam Bondi to look into Republican allegations that ActBlue has allowed straw or dummy contributions or foreign contributions to political candidates and committees. ActBlue is a crucial fundraising tool for Democrats, as almost all party candidates use it in both primary and general elections. The announcement inspired donors across the country to open their wallets. handing the Democratic Party a massive fundraising boost as some PACs more than quadrupled their fundraising within 24 hours of Trump's memorandum. PACs that typically raise $3,000 to $6,000 on a message raised $25,000 in counting, turned left PAC senior advisor Randy Jones told the New Republic Friday. Prior to Thursday, Act Blue has raised $400 million within the first 3 months of 2025. But anxiety over the future of Act Blue under a second Trump administration persists. Despite assurances from Act Blue that services would continue, Democratic strategists and their teams are drafting contingency plans and evaluating other options, wary of a president who has expressed complete disregard for the rule of law. Donald Trump said Joe Biden was using the Justice Department to go after his political opponents, which was never true, and now Donald Trump is actually doing that in the most blatant way possible. And this is how he is using the DOJ. It is just an extension of his power to go after his political opponents, which is exactly what we saw with Judge Dugan in Wisconsin, who Donald Trump is targeting, not just because he wants to intimidate her, but intimidate anyone who would do their job and not bend the knee to Trump and his illegal actions. And it's the reason why he melted down on Truth Social. We need courageous justice in our country. If the courts don't allow what we have been allowed to do for 250 years, America can no longer be the same. Crooked Joe Biden will destroy our country with his open borders madness and allowing criminals or every type to enter with no retribution. Murderers, drug dealers, gang members, and even the mentally insane will take their home in our country, wreaking havoc like we have never seen before. It is not possible to have trials for millions and millions of people. We know who are the criminals, and we must get them out of the USA, and fast. They are making it incredibly clear. They don't want due process. They don't want trials. They want trial by Trump. Donald Trump gets to decide the fate of whoever he wants without evidence, or if there is evidence to suggest that whatever claim Donald Trump is making is, as usually is the case, untrue. All of this has ultimately been about a couple of things. Cruelty certainly comes to mind, but we look at corruption and criminality. The corruption of this administration is based on the fact that Donald Trump is focused on putting all of the power in his hands. Thus, you are incentivized to say yes to whatever he wants to get closer to him so you can have some of that power. We are no longer doing checks and balances. We are no longer doing three branches of government. A bureaucracy that Donald Trump attacked wasn't because it was slow moving, but because it didn't allow one person to have all the power, which is what Donald Trump wants. And that makes it a lot easier for him to be corrupt and act in criminal ways. That is what's happening right now. That's what needs to be called out, and it was by Tim Walz right here.
The reason I love serving in this job with all of you. Now tonight, with the state of our state as strong as it's ever been, we gather to write the next chapter in this great Minnesota story. But I can't help but point out that we also gather at a moment of great uncertainty for our nation. And let's be honest, this uncertainty, this chaos is no accident. The President of the United States has chosen to destroy the federal government's ability to help people. He literally hired the richest man in the world to take a chainsaw to the basic services that Minnesotans rely on to build better lives. His plan leaves nobody there working to prevent the next pandemic, nobody to pick up the phone at the Social Security office, nobody making sure kids with special needs get the quality education they deserve. Just a few months ago, Minnesotans who got ripped off by a bank, a credit card company, a healthcare company, could go to some place in the federal government and seek help and relief. But now the government switched sides. Under this administration, the federal government exists to help the corporations as they screw the American people over. Next up, Medicaid. And everybody in this room and across Minnesota, let's be very clear what it means. 40% of children and more than 1 million of our neighbors in the state of Minnesota rely on Medicaid for their health care. This administration wants to take that health care away. Meanwhile, rural hospitals will be forced to close. All the rest of us, our costs will go up, and state budget will be torn to pieces. The President has also chosen, and I stress this, chosen to tear up the values that once made America the shining light of the world. Now, in this land, of the free and home of the brave. We have university students being swept up, shoved into unmarked vans, and fathers being tossed into Salvadorian gulags without a hint of due process. So I want to be real clear about this. If you say you love freedom, but you don't believe freedom is for everybody, then the thing you love isn't freedom, it's privilege.
I always come back to, and you know this if you watch the show, the line from Donald Trump's director of the Office of Budget and Management, Russ Vought, who said that he wants federal workers to feel traumatized when they come and do their jobs because he wants them to quit. He wants to disrupt the government. He wants to fill it with loyalists, and they want to trim it not because it's broken, but because doing so gives them more money for a billionaire tax cut. But the same is true, not of just federal employees, but benefits carried out by the federal government. The important programs that we need to keep people alive, the programs they have paid into their entire lives. Donald Trump wants people to be distrustful of those so he can ultimately eliminate or privatize them. That is what they want to do. That is the core thread in all of this. Make people hate the government so you can get rid of it, or bring it in for more power for yourself in the Oval Office, where Donald Trump wants to concentrate our entire government around himself and the really gauche and ugly and trashy designs he's made in that room. I don't know if you've seen the Oval Office lately, but it looks ugly because Donald Trump has no taste and clearly no brain. Just heard from Tim Walz talking about Donald Trump's attacks on the federal government. That also includes tariffs that he called out right here.
I don't know. You almost have to be an amateur psychologist on this. It's like Trump is stuck in the 80s. His music, his clothing, his thinking. He has been on this tariff thing forever, and every economist, conservative or liberal, will tell you they just simply don't work. We use them strategically, but he doesn't fundamentally understand how trade works. It goes back to what I continue to say. I think the biggest myth perpetuated on this country is that Donald Trump understands anything about business. He's bankrupt every single one he's been into, and now he's bankrupting this country. So I appreciate you talking about this. This is a tax on working people that we've not seen in any of our lifetimes, and it is going to have dramatic effect.
You know, there are two follow-ups I want on that.
Yes, Donald Trump is stuck in another era. We see it with the Oval Office. We see it with his tariff plan. We see it with his broken brain, which is deteriorating more and more every day. And that is exactly, maybe less so the ugliness of the Oval Office, maybe more so the attack on our democracy. But both are important to call out. But both of those things we will be talking about every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.